hello, welcome to this presentation. This is Trina Moitra here. I'm the head of marketing at Convert.com, and I also consult with DTC brands, getting them from 7 figures to 8 figures using various channels, among them email being one. So the topic of today's presentation is multifaceting your DTC products to optimize email revenue. Let me kind of break that down a little bit because it sounds like a mouthful. Basically, when I say multifaceting, I mean it is the process of digging up desirable aspects of your product, or in some cases even your brand, to add excitement to existing offers and also to make it so almost like you are putting forward a particular facet or aspect of your product's personality so that it can resonate more with various customer or buyer segments. Obviously, there is that one USP of the product that will always resonate with the majority of your buyers, hopefully if you've done your research right. But there are other facets or aspects of your product that may also be a game changer for certain segments of your audiences. And there is a definite need for that. And that is what this presentation is about. We are also going to take a look at the research process, the content, the templates, all of that jazz. So just let's dive into it. Okay, so when we send out sale emails or we launch a new product, this is what we all think should happen. People should absolutely go to the product page, they should make a bunch of purchases, and they should just say like, shut up and take my money. And you know what, in some cases it does happen that way. But email campaigns, specifically campaigns, are funny. Just like Google has the messy middle where it cannot really predict how the intent of your traffic or your audience is changing, emails have a laggy middle, so to speak. What happens is when you launch a new product or even a new offer of a discount, there is a lot of buzz around it, there is novelty around it, and it all feels hunky-dory. People are excited to open the emails, but that lasts a maximum of 2 days. After that comes the laggy middle. Basically, you have kind of exhausted the novelty of the offer, and you haven't really progressed that far into the email campaign to actually pull the lever of scarcity. So that is why we call that the laggy middle of email campaigns. The sad reality why this happens is because your well-crafted, important, like let's say flagship USP, it performs well in the first couple of days of the sale campaign, the launch campaign, just as it is intended to. You know, like, yeah, if I put this out, this is going to resonate with the most of my buyers. But after that, there are some obscure benefits that you didn't pay attention to, and your buyers, other segments of your buyers, the ones that haven't bought yet, they are probably looking for that. And the sad thing or the innocuous thing here is if you knew about these facets or you knew about these obscure benefits, it would not be a problem for you to reframe your product. In most cases, if it is solving the main pressing problem, it is also well equipped to kind of give these obscure benefits. You just need to reframe the product. And we call these selling angles. You need to find the right selling angle in order to connect with the fringe segments in your audiences. So when it comes to selling through emails, before we get into how you can do that, how you can multifacet your products and how you can multifacet them specifically in launch and sale campaigns, when it comes to selling through emails, these are the factors most brands generally get wrong. So when it comes to selling through emails, basically before this, let me give you a caveat, which is I know there is a lot of discussion around the feasibility of doing sales. There's a lot of discussion around whether we should actually be giving a discount code or coupon or not. So I would just like to say right off the bat that this particular presentation is not for those philosophical musings. They will vary case by case. It may make sense for you to give a very steep discount for some of your products in order to reduce the cost of customer acquisition. But in other cases, it may not make sense for you at all to do sales. So this is never a one size fits all. And this presentation is basically geared towards brands and marketers who are over that philosophical bump, and they now have a lot of like stuff on their hands to get done. They are sending out 20-30 emails a week, not for the same brand, hopefully not for the same brand, and you want to get things done quick and easy. So one of the first things is brands and marketers, they fail to gauge demand before hammering out the product. And I've seen this happen so many times. Just because your competitor has launched a particular product does not mean that you should be launching the same product and that idea or that concept will be met with the same degree of enthusiasm. Because a product launch, just like anything else, in marketing is a very delicate balance of lots of factors. There are multiple factors that go into these product launches, and unless and until you are sure that you are capable of recreating each and every aspect of that complex mix, you should definitely not step beyond being quote unquote inspired by the product range and the launches and the sales that your competitors are doing. Specifically because it is so very easy to gauge the demand for a product or even a sale. You can just send out a simple survey, and I talk about this later on. Surveys can be very complex. You need the right questions, otherwise they will lead you down blind alleys. But what I have here is basically pretty quick and easy. They fail to dial in on the visceral motivator for the audience. This one is a fun little bit. Visceral motivator of the audience. Basically, this is the shade of feeling better. So anytime that you are selling a product to an audience or several audience segments, the easiest thing that you can do to connect with them or almost instantly read their mind is to promise them that they will feel better. They will feel better about their health. They will feel better when they stand in front of the mirror. They will feel better in their close intimate relationships or even in their social relationships. They will feel better on the personal front. So feeling better is universal, and the visceral motivator is the core emotion. It is kind of like the spine or the backbone of that feeling better. So basically, it is the foundation on which you are going to rest the promise and the premise of the emails that you have in your campaign. Let me give you a quick example here. For example, if you are, let's say, selling sporting shoes or running shoes, you're selling running shoes, and you do know, like people who buy from you know that there is that awkward gait which runners have when they haven't been running for quite some time. It is just their body is not used to that stepping motion and they look really awkward. So basically, your shoes could promise them that, hey, we have this layer here which is going to make sure that your knees are supported and so you don't look like amateur runners. And that is, in a sense, even though people would say that is convenience, but the visceral motivator for the audience there is vanity in a large way, so that they can kind of like take their shots, put that on Instagram, and just feel better about themselves and in their social setting and about their accomplishments. So it is very important to dial in on the visceral motivator for the audience, and I have a trick later down the line which I can share with you about this, how to find this out. It's a cheat code. They fail to isolate the most pressing need for the product and build the narrative around it. So let's say if the visceral motivator or the core motivator is mostly emotion based, I would say the pressing need or the pain point is mostly practical or tangible. So it is like I said, if the core motivator is vanity, I want to look good to my social circle, to my social crowd, the pressing need is I don't have shoes that help me look good when I am doing my runs, when I'm jogging, when I'm on that, trying to prepare for that marathon. So it is a very practical and tangible aspect of this visceral motivator. They fail to tell a story, and this is so important. I'm pretty sure all of you have heard of the story brand framework. It is one of the most popular frameworks for just about anything. You can use that on product pages, you can use that on B2B websites. It even maps to the strategic narrative. The story brand framework is all about telling a story. So a story is important because people don't buy from brands and people don't buy products. People buy from other people that they like, and they invest in solutions. And a story, since it is ingrained in our DNA, is the easiest way to bring that hero's journey directly to the buyer or the reader. So you don't need to have a beginning, an elaborate beginning, a middle, and a climax or a crescendo for a story to make sense. Just an underdog came, an underdog saw, an underdog won is also a great story. And yes, it does have a beginning, middle, and end, but it's not elaborate. So always keep in mind that having a character and positioning yourself as either the sidekick or the guru or the coach or the leader, don't do the leader bit, because you should put the spotlight on the buyer. The buyer should be the hero. It's the buyer's journey. But you get what I'm trying to say. They fail to connect their why to their audience's philosophical why. This is kind of a slippery slope, because some people say that people don't really care about why you have started your business. I tend to not agree because of two main reasons. The first reason is when you do not understand your own why. And by the way, the why is never to make more money. The why is something that has driven you to do what you are doing today. What is that vision that you have in your mind, and that is why you are doing X, Y, and Z to get there. So it's basically the purpose of your brand. So there are two reasons why, if you do not have your why clear and you do not have your why mapped to your audience's philosophical why, it's a problem. So the number one reason is your message gets muddied. So if you don't have a very strong core, the why gives you your core. If you don't have a very strong core, then you're looking at your competitors and you are trying to do a lot of different things together. You're trying to be competitor A, you are trying to do this thing that competitor B did, you're trying to launch like competitor C, and you are eroding, or you are kind of taking away the authenticity and the uniqueness of your brand in that sense. So obviously your message clarity will be nowhere near as sharp and to the point as it needs to be. And the second thing is, there are actually certain segments of buyers, and you'll have to test this for yourself. What I have seen is basically this applies to some of the millennials, most of the millennials actually, some of the baby boomers as well, and I haven't really worked that much with Gen Z. So basically the millennials, they absolutely care about your why. Obviously, they will first look to see that your product is solving their problem. Then they will look to feel even better about the deal by making sure that they got a good deal. But then there comes a time when they will think about, should I buy from this brand? Like, all things being equal, all factors being equal, should I buy from the brand that doesn't give a crap about the planet, or should I buy from this brand that is actively trying to clean up the oceans? I'm telling you, this actually absolutely applies. So, a PSA. So, before we jump into the research and the content and all of the good jazz, a public safety announcement. Don't copy your competitors, what your competitors are doing in terms of specifics like tone of voice. Now, this is a funny story that is obviously first hand. Basically, was very inspired by the tone of voice of one of my competitors, and they were such a fun brand, light-hearted, and they used to make so much of fun they used to have so much of fun in their emails. So I kind of used some of the cussing that they used to use in their emails, and we had a barrage of complaints, and it was like, oh, I didn't like this tone of voice, it felt disrespectful. Same audience pretty much, like if you look at it on paper, it's the same audience, but they didn't like it at all, and it taught me a very important lesson, that you should never be inspired by the philosophies and the principles, but don't copy your competitors in terms of specifics. Then don't assume emails have to be simple. And in this case, what the mistake most brands make is they feel that simple is basically image heavy. So they'll have this one image which has all of the data, and they'll put that in the Klaviyo or Active Campaign, and they will think that this is a simple email just because they didn't have to write anything. But that is not simple. The internet service providers, the ones who are there, they are the kind of like the keepers at the gate. They actually prefer it if you trim down the code. If you have if you have a decent ratio between text and images, and obviously more text, less images, and that they kind of will reward you if your emails look, and this is a very simplified version of that, if your emails look a lot like the emails that this particular person, your buyer, is supposed to receive from their friends, their family members. So just keep that in mind when you are writing. Don't be spammy. Write like you're writing to a real person. Try everything out yourself with revenue as the deciding factor. I know revenue gets a lot of flack, but at the end of the day, I will be very candid. I am expected to generate revenue, so I look at revenue as the deciding factor. Obviously, that goes without saying, I'm not going to bombard people with spammy messages. We've had a whole talk about that right now. So, but at the end of the day, I am priming them up to buy more, even with the content emails I'm sending. Look at the performance numbers on paper. So just go run an experiment right now. Take 3 members from your team, ask them all to go look at the revenue data for your last sale. Like look at all of those conversion numbers and revenue on Klaviyo, and then ask them, like, do you think this was a good sale? And if you want to, you can even tell them, like, hey, this was our particular, we wanted to hit this number in revenue, and do you think this was a good sale? Did it match up? And all 3 of them will give you different answers, because it is frightening how something as objective as numbers is also made subjective if you are keeping everything in your head. So just take it out, put it on paper, and then analyze. You will have a much better idea of what is actually working for your brand. Okay, now we are crafting multi-campaign emails with endless variety. Yeah, I know that sounds a little corny, but that's the heading of the slide. So even if you have just one product or variant, this section is focused on the research part of it. We have already touched on a lot of this. I didn't want to drone on and on about the research, so that's why I incorporated bits and pieces of it throughout. So why did you start your business? And like I said, this is one of the first things that you have to keep in mind. It's not that you're going to talk about your purpose in every email, but like I said, that messaging clarity is extremely important. You need to know what progress looks like for your brand and where you want to go before you do these campaigns, launches, emails on a recurring basis. But the good part is you don't need to do this all the time. Obviously, you'll only be doing it once, and if you haven't done it yet, please do it. Ask yourself why. Like, why? Anytime you give an answer for why did you start your business, ask yourself, okay, so what? What's the next thing? Why? And stop when you have no longer any layers to peel back like an onion. So that is the purpose, the core reason why your business exists. And also understand why your audience may potentially care about this purpose, because when you speak to someone's philosophical values, it may not be apparent, it may not be sexy, but gradually and surely you start to become a brand or a voice that people start to just relate with, resonate with, rely on. So always make sure that after you have discussed what the reason for starting your business is, you are also very clear on why this reason is appealing to your ideal audience. And if it is not, then that's not your ideal audience. You don't really have the fit needed to launch your product yet, or just to expand yet. You need to go back to your drawing board. So how does your audience talk about your brand, your SKU? The process that I use here is, thanks to Lorenzo, I have a name for it, which is review mining. I used to do this in the past, but once I started following his content, I understood and I realized that what I'm doing is actually review mining. So first up, send out a survey with an open-ended question like, how has your life been changed by this specific product? And please make sure, this was something I referred to in the introduction as well, please make sure that you are not asking people to analyze emotions or to self-introspect. They are not going to be able to do that, and self-introspection on short notice is even more difficult. So ask them in terms of events and actual things that have happened in their life. They are much more likely to remember that. There might be a little bit of obfuscation there as well, but it will be way easier for you to decipher, and it will not lead you down blind alleys. So no bios, no reviews. Go check out the comment section of the most popular videos in your niche on YouTube. I do this all the time, and this is a literal gold mine. You will get to know about what are people ranting about, what they don't like about the category in and of itself. They pour their hearts out to their favorite influencers, and you can just eavesdrop there. You can even look up hashtags, popular movements in your space. This is something I recommend you should do, even if you have lots of reviews. And if you don't, then please don't skip this step. And in a pinch, if you don't really have anybody active on YouTube, which is very far-fetched, you can also use Reddit or Quora. Look at the reviews of your competitors, not to kind of rip off their features and benefits, but to get a baseline on what is being liked and what is being disliked. And if you can kind of like fill in that gap between what is being disliked in your competitors and what your product does really well, don't lie here, don't make things up, but if there is a natural fit, then that is what multifaceting is all about. Also look at the also asked questions that Google shows for your relevant search queries, and I will tell you why this is important. So basically the also asked box is there for most of the queries, and if you click on it, you will see more and more queries popping up. And this is where Google is doing a lot of the heavy lifting for you. Okay, so now let's talk about the content templates. So you've done the research, you've realized what it takes to kind of get over the laggy middle. What's the content that you're going to be sending out in those emails of yours? So one of the first things that I will tell you to do is play with the 7 sins. And I said I had a cheat code for the visceral motivator of your buyers, and that is the 7 sins. It is not a random list of words or adjectives or nouns. It is very, very pertinent. So even if you don't have anything to do with religion, it is very pertinent, because these feelings are the feelings that kind of guide the human psyche. It is very primitive and primable. And if you don't know what the 7 sins are, just go into Google, look that up, and you will see a list of these emotions or these feelings or these nouns, and you will see that list there. And it is my favorite thing to do on the planet is to pick one of these and test it out in the emails. If I have a good idea that maybe since this is a makeup brand, we might start with vanity, I might actually down the line find that these people appreciate the multitasking aspect of the makeup more, so they are actually getting more for they are doing more for a bit less of the product, and it is actually a form of slop. Then that becomes the backbone. That is something that I will make it a point to mention in each and every email I send out in that campaign, and if that is so, then for the entire product line and the brand. Send the most popular email, generally the most mentioned benefits. So basically, if when you'll be doing your review mining, you will find like certain benefits and selling angles being repeated over and over again. So you will obviously take them out and you're going to count them, and you are going to see that one particular benefit rises to the surface. And I would recommend that if you are doing sale campaigns, please lead with this. There's a reason behind this. Most of the people have covered this in some form or the other in your reviews. Now, if your sample size for the testimonials is highly skewed and it doesn't reflect the majority of your buyers, we may need to rethink the approach about sending this first, but this is kind of like a guarantee that you are going to resonate the most with the most of your list and the most of your buyers. Then send a us against them email. This is where you position the purpose of your brand against the villain. The villain is not somebody who is an actual villain. The villain is an entity that stands for a philosophy that is absolutely against what you, and hopefully you are saying that, yeah, by association, my buyers as well. So basically, quick examples of these are the big beauty, big pharma, so all of that. I've seen this happen pretty in a sleazy way. The execution can get very sleazy at some points of time, but you can keep the execution classy as well. So us against them is a cheat code. It helps your readers kind of empathize with you. It helps your readers identify with you. And also you have that villain there that is legitimately not trying to do its best for your buyers and readers. Then turn testimonials into stories. So basically, this is something that I have swiped from one of my favorite brands, and what they do is they take literally a sentence from the testimonial and they will use that as the email subject line, and based on that, like that is the opening, and then they have the beginning, the middle and the end in the email itself. So the testimonial itself becomes the backbone of the email. It works like a charm and you don't even have to come up with your own story ideas. Send educational emails. This is where the people also asked questions come in really handy. So the educational emails are going to be a little bit more specific than the emails that you send out. If you are just talking about the, let's say, the head term of the brand, if you are selling to so for example, if you are selling to a supplement brand, don't send them an educational email that tells them what are supplements. Send them an educational email that talks about how to use supplements, how can I use vitamins with probiotics, that sort of thing. Then leverage social proof. So you've already sent out your survey and you can turn that into a really great social proof. It can be all about, hey, we surveyed 100,000 buyers and this is what they had to say about our brand, our product. Agitate the problem and then kind of break down what these people are actually saying about your product. It's a great form of social proof that extends beyond just testimonials. Don't forget the good old FAQs. The FAQs are great and they kind of like tie everything together. So basically, you have been talking a lot about your purpose, you've been talking a lot about why you created the brand, how particular selling angles are going to make the lives of these buyers better. But the FAQ is all about the product itself. So what goes into the product, the ingredients, why is the bottle shaped a particular way, why are these supplements made with these specific herbs sourced from these specific farmers and not XYZ. So basically this is a good tying in piece that tells you all about the product itself, the brand itself, the specifics. You can play it both ways. So this is kind of like the structure that I use, and take each selling angle or point that you have and then mix and match these templates. So for each selling point, you can probably send one or all of these templates. So you will basically have almost an unlimited number of combinations. You know, the more research that you do, the more effort that you put into your work, you will have a really good repository of templates as well as ideas and tools to leverage when you have to send a large number of emails out. And this is not just for one in-house marketer, but even somebody who's working in an agency. So I hope you liked this, and yeah, enjoy the other sessions. And if you want to reach out to me, you absolutely can on LinkedIn. Thank you.